Do you believe that an angel can visit someone in their sleep and completely change the destiny of an entire family? It may sound like a scene from a movie or an excerpt from an ancient spiritual parable, but what you're about to discover may surprise you. There are real moving, documented stories of people who were saved from impending tragedies, accidents, fires, natural disasters, all thanks to one prophetic dream. And the most impressive thing, these dreams were not simple, disconnected images of the mind. They were warnings, divine signs, clear messages of spiritual protection coming directly from something that many describe as angel. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, with your heart racing, after dreaming that you need to run away, that something is going to happen. You try to ignore it, but something deep inside insists, take your family now. And when you hear that voice, even if only in your dream, your life changes forever. Does it sound crazy? To some it may seem like it, but for those who have experienced it, it is impossible to deny. These are stories that span cultures, religions, and continents. In all of them there is a pattern, interventions of angels during sleep, in moments when everything seemed calm, but danger was lurking. Have you ever had that kind of dream that feels more real than life itself? One where you wake up feeling like someone was there, right next to you, protecting you. Maybe you ignored it. Maybe you thought it was just a weird dream, but what if it wasn't? Stay with me until the end, because these stories have something in common, and they can bring you an important revelation. They are cases of ordinary people who experienced something extraordinary while they were sleeping. In each situation, an inexplicable detail, a feeling of presence, a vision with deep meaning, a warning that saved lives. And the most impressive thing is that many of these families only understood the gravity of what happened days later, when they looked back and realized that if they hadn't woken up, if they hadn't paid attention to that dream, maybe they wouldn't even be here to tell the story today. These prophetic dreams are not just random manifestations. They are spiritual signs, interventions from above, angels' warnings whose mission is to protect, guide, and save. And yes, they act even when no one is awake. Have you ever experienced something similar? Have you ever had a dream that seemed like a warning, a notice, a presence calling you? Comment below, because sometimes what you experienced can be deeper than you imagine. As we progress, you will hear touching stories of people who ignored the first sign and almost paid dearly for it. Others who heard the call in time and had their lives changed forever. And they all share something inexplicable, something sacred, something that comes from above. Now take a deep breath, because the next story may make you see your own dreams in a completely different way. Oftentimes, what seems to us to be just a strange dream may actually be an urgent message from heaven, a message of light sent by beings who act silently when we need it most. And maybe you felt it too. That strong intuition, that butterflies in your stomach that appear out of nowhere, or that strange feeling that something is protecting you, even when everything around you seems out of control. If this topic makes sense to you, leave it here in the comments. What has touched you the most so far? Maybe you've experienced something similar, or maybe you're trying to understand a recent dream that you can't get out of your head. Sharing your experience can help other people who are going through the same doubt or looking for a sign. This space here is ours. It is a safe place of exchange and faith. And if in any way this video touched your heart, click the like button, because it shows that this content makes a difference in your life. And more than that, it helps YouTube understand that this topic matters. When you like, comment, and share, this message goes further. And it can reach exactly the person who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to the channel if you feel like you need to keep hearing stories like these, stories that inspire, that strengthen faith, that remind us that we are not alone in this world. Here we walk together, and each new video is an invitation to see spirituality with more clarity, with more love, and with more connection. Because deep down, we are all searching for answers, and sometimes they come whispered, in the silence of the early morning, by voices that only the heart can hear. But now get ready, because what comes next is even more impressive. One of these stories involves a mother and her son, and an unexpected visit that changed everything. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because when we talk about prophetic dreams, we are not just talking about random images that appear while we sleep. We are entering a territory that is subtle, mysterious, and at the same time deeply real. The place where the invisible touches the visible, where the spiritual invades the everyday, and where angels often choose to appear, not with open wings in the middle of the sky, but with whispers, symbols, and signs that only the awakened heart can understand. Since ancient times, dreams have been treated as something sacred. In practically all cultures, from ancient Egypt to the Judeo-Christian tradition, from indigenous legends to Eastern beliefs, sleep was seen as a gateway to the invisible, a state in which the soul frees itself from physical limitations and enters another dimension, where time does not exist as we know it, and where hidden truths can be revealed. Prophetic dreams in particular have one very distinct characteristic. They don't come just to entertain or confuse, they come to warn, prepare, protect. These are dreams that convey a clear message, even if wrapped in metaphors. Dreams that have such a strong impact that, upon waking, the person feels in their body, in their chest, in their eyes, that it was more than just a daydream. It was a warning, an intervention, a call. Often these dreams come with unfamiliar faces, soft voices, lights that don't blind but illuminate the soul. And when we really pay attention, we realize that these mysterious characters have something in common. They don't judge, they don't shout, they don't impose. They guide. They appear when our conscious mind is at rest, but our spirit is awake. It is in this state that angels prefer to act, because then there is no distraction. Only truth. Have you ever heard the phrase, "While you were sleeping, God was working for you"? It's not just poetic, it carries a profound spiritual principle, because during sleep our resistance drops, and what we would normally try to rationalize or ignore during the day, we are able to accept in the silence of the night. And that is exactly where prophetic dreams come into play. They are not fortune-telling of the future, as many people think. They are warnings, calls, decisions being whispered directly into the soul, so that something can be changed in time. There are moving stories of people who dreamed about fires before they happened, about car accidents that were avoided, because someone decided to change their route, about family members who appeared in dreams saying don't go or wait a little longer. And the most impressive thing is that, in most of these stories, the person woke up with a feeling so strong, so vivid, that they decided to act differently. And this saved their own life or the life of someone they loved. And yes, in many of these cases, the central character of the dream was an angel, sometimes in an ordinary human form, sometimes as a child, a wise old man, or even as a stranger with an inexplicably peaceful presence. Other times the angel does not speak, just points, touches the shoulder, or simply conveys a feeling that changes everything. Science often calls these phenomena advanced intuition, subconscious manifestation, or even mental synchronicity. But spirituality sees things differently, because when you hear the same story from people who don't even know each other, with such similar experiences at crucial moments, it's impossible not to ask yourself, is it really just a coincidence? Or are we facing something bigger, operating behind the scenes of our visible reality? The truth is that angels don't ask for permission to act. They appear when they need to, and often their mission is to stop us from making a wrong decision, from following a dangerous path, or even from giving up on something that is not yet finished. They come to remind us that our story is not over yet, and that there is a loving force taking care of us, even on days when everything seems too dark. In many prophetic dreams, the content seems symbolic at first glance. A road suddenly disappearing, a house on fire, a bridge breaking down, or a lost child. But when you wake up, there's a silent understanding, as if something in your heart is saying you need to pay attention to this. And when you honor that warning, when you take it seriously, transformation begins. You change course. You reconsider a choice, or even reclaim a faith that had been forgotten. And this has nothing to do with religion, dogma, or fear. It has to do with connection, with listening, with presence. It is the kind of experience that forces us to rethink the way we see the world, the decisions we make, the way we treat the signs around us. Because the spiritual is not an isolated part of life. It is in everything. It manifests itself in the intuition that pulses, in the right word that arrives, in the coincidence that saves. And when you understand this, your journey changes. You stop going on autopilot. You start to see behind the scenes of situations, and you learn to decode messages that previously seemed like just strange dreams. Now tell me, have you ever woken up feeling like someone was protecting you during the night? Have you ever had a dream so vivid that it seemed more real than the day that followed? Have you ever felt like something or someone was stopping you from making a rash decision? Comment. This makes sense to me, if any part of this really touched you, because now I want to show you how these experiences manifested in real life. Impressive cases of ordinary people who had encounters with angels in their dreams, and who, without realizing it, were saved from predicted tragedies. Because if angels really do speak to us through dreams, and more reports show us that they do, then we need to understand something essential. They also let you know when something is not right. They don't just come to comfort, but also to warn. And these warnings don't always come in clear words. Sometimes the language is symbolic, intense, and emotionally charged. But the impact, that's impossible to ignore. What if that strange dream you had wasn't just a dream? What if that fire that appeared in the background of the scene, that water that suddenly covered everything, that presence of light too strong to be explained, were in fact a direct warning from the invisible, trying to wake you up to something you haven't seen yet? There are some signs that recur with surprising frequency in reports of warning dreams. Completely different people, from different places and cultures, dream about the same images when something needs to be avoided, changed, or revised. One of the most common symbols is the fire. But not just any fire. It is a fire that consumes, that approaches quickly, that is scary. Sometimes it is burning in a house, sometimes in an object, other times in everything around. And almost always, the feeling during the dream is of urgency, of wanting to escape, save someone, or scream for help. In many of these reports, fire represents situations that are getting out of hand in real life. Dangerous decisions, abusive relationships, pent-up emotions about to explode. It's as if the angel is saying, you are playing with something that can destroy you, but there is still time to get out. Another very strong symbol is the water. In prophetic dreams, water can appear in many forms: a raging sea, a flash flood, a murky river that sweeps everything away. In general, it represents deep emotions, inevitable changes or truths that were hidden and begin to come to light. When someone dreams that they are drowning, for example, it is often accompanied by a paralyzing sensation, as if the person were losing control of their own life. And that is when, in the midst of this chaos, something unexpected arises: a light. A hand that pulls, a voice that says, wake up, a presence of intense light. It is also a striking sign. Not an ordinary light, but a light that seems to have life, consciousness, a light that passes through everything and leaves a mark. This light usually appears in moments of great confusion in the dream, when the person is lost or afraid. And, when it appears, there is an almost automatic feeling of security, as if someone was saying, you are not alone, trust, change now. Voices that warn also appear in many of these reports. But the most curious thing is that most of the time these voices do not present themselves as an angel or a familiar figure. They simply appear with authority and calm, saying phrases like, don't go, wait a little longer, come back, or simply calling the person's name so loudly that they wake up with their heart racing. And it is this type of awakening that often changes the course of a decision that was about to be made. A trip cancelled at the last minute, a contract that was not signed, a conversation that finally happened. There is also a signal that does not involve image or sound, but rather a feeling. It's as if something inside the dream screams, pay attention to this now. It can be a repetition of situations, a suffocating feeling, an invisible presence that watches. And when the person wakes up, they feel like they have been nudged by something bigger. In many cases, they can't even explain exactly what they saw, but they know they can't ignore what they felt. These signs do not appear by chance. They have a purpose. They are like invisible markers on our path, showing where the risks are, where we need to stop, go back, or move forward with more faith and discernment. And even if, at the time, the dream seems confusing, disturbing, or even meaningless, with time it fits together. And when you connect the pieces, you realize that was a warning. It was the spiritual world calling you back to the right path. The hidden truth here is that we don't always hear these warnings during the day. In the midst of the rush, the distractions, the constant pressure, our rational mind simply blocks out what the heart wants to say. But at night, everything changes. At night, the backstage reveals itself, and the angels speak, not to scare, but to comfort, prepare us. Some people say, "Oh, but I don't dream about any of that." And the answer is simple. Maybe they are dreaming, but they're not remembering it. Or maybe the signs are coming in another way, more subtle, more personal. The important thing is not to look for symbols like someone who reads a horoscope, but rather to cultivate them. Attention, sensitivity, willingness to listen to what goes beyond the obvious. Because when you start paying attention, dreams stop being just dreams. They become maps, emotional and spiritual guides that point out what needs to change, what needs to be faced, what needs to be healed. And the great transformation happens when you have the courage to act according to what you have seen. Then yes, the discrete miracles begin to happen. And don't think that only religious or highly spiritual people have this kind of experience. Not at all. These warnings appear to all kinds of people, simple people, skeptics, disconnected people, even those who say they don't believe in anything. Because angels don't act based on doctrine, but on necessity. They don't choose the purest, but the most vulnerable. And when the moment comes, they warn you, in the way you'll understand best. So don't underestimate that dream that left you restless for days. Don't ignore the image that haunted you throughout the morning. And most importantly, don't undervalue your intuition, because many times it is just the silent translation of something much bigger, trying to protect. You write it down. I'm on this journey too, if you've ever felt that silent calling. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because there is a detail that is often overlooked in this journey of prophetic dreams, the time at which they occur. There is something special about dawn, that mysterious interval between deep sleep and awakening. It is precisely during this period that the spiritual world manifests itself most. And that is what we are going to delve into now. Because when we talk about prophetic dreams and spiritual warnings, we are not just dealing with symbols and interpretations. We are talking about real impact. Lives that have been touched, diverted from danger, preserved, sometimes for seconds. And this is not theory. This happens. It happens in faraway places and in simple homes, like the story I am going to tell you now. It was an ordinary family from the countryside. One of those families that live with the bare essentials, but where love holds everything together. Small house, wood stove, children at school, father in the fields, mother taking care of everything. They didn't have luxuries, but they had a routine. And sometimes the routine is so repetitive that we think nothing can go wrong. But what no one sees is what goes on behind the scenes, the invisible plots that unfold while we sleep. That night, everything was as usual. The children went to bed early, tired from the day's rush. Her husband fell asleep listening to the crickets outside, as he always did, and her mother, exhausted, lay down and fell asleep. But something different happened. Shortly after closing her eyes, she began to dream. In the dream, she was inside her own house, but the weather was different. The heat was stifling. The walls were beginning to darken. A smell of smoke filled the air, and suddenly she saw fire rising up the curtains, licking the ceiling, spreading at an absurd speed. Her heart was beating so hard in the dream that it felt like it was going to jump out of her chest. And then, in the midst of all that chaos, she heard a voice. A firm voice which echoed as if it were coming from inside and outside at the same time. "Get up now." She woke up in a panic. Sweat was pouring down her face, her chest heaving. She jumped up, still unable to understand what was a dream and what was reality. But something was wrong. A strange smell, an unusual heat. She ran to the kitchen, without even knowing why, and that was when she saw it. An electrical outlet leaning against a curtain was starting to spark. The fabric had already caught fire. It was small, there was still time. But if I had woken up 5 minutes later, it wouldn't have happened. If I had ignored the dream as something unimportant, she, her husband and children would be inhaling smoke while they slept, trapped in a house from which there would be no time to escape. She screamed. Her husband woke up and they managed to put out the flames with buckets of water. The children cried, frightened. The neighbors came to see what had happened, and in the midst of the confusion, she said out loud, unable to contain herself, "I dreamed about fire. I saw it happening before. It was as if the dream had been a mirror of what was about to happen, a message, a warning, a chance. And do you know what the most powerful thing of all is? A few days before, she had told a neighbor that she had been feeling something strange, as if something was warning her that she needed to be more attentive. She couldn't explain it. She just felt it. And after the dream, everything made sense. It was as if the answer she hadn't found in words had come to her through her sleep, clearly, directly, urgently. Because when it comes to saving, angels don't whisper, they shout. And what remains from this type of story is not just the surprise of something supernatural having happened. What remains is the awareness that the invisible is much closer than we imagine, that warnings do exist, and that when we are willing to listen, even what seems absurd can make perfect sense. Imagine if she had ignored it, if she had gone back to sleep, thinking it was just another nightmare. The fate of an entire family would have been different, and that raises a powerful question. How many warnings have we received and simply ignored? How many intuitions have you felt and treated as nonsense? How many signs seemed like just a coincidence until the consequence arrived? These experiences show us that angels work behind the scenes in life. They don't always appear with wings or halos. Sometimes they are just that nagging feeling, that strange dream, that voice inside you saying, "It won't," or "Come back now." And the real challenge isn't receiving the signal. It's recognizing it when it arrives. Because the world is full of distractions. There are so many external voices telling you what to do, what to follow, what to ignore, that when the most important voice speaks, the one that comes from within, guided by something greater, it is easily drowned out. But when you begin to see with the eyes of your soul, everything changes. What seemed confusing takes shape. What seemed improbable becomes revelation. And it doesn't matter where you live, your religion, your history, or what you believe. When something needs to be avoided, help comes. The spiritual universe doesn't need your permission to try to save you. It just acts. And the more you open yourself to listening, the more the signs multiply. They are in the dream, in the silence, in the details that you didn't even notice before. Some people call it intuition, others call it faith, others call it divine intervention. But the name is the least important thing. What matters is that it happens, and the impact is real. The transformation that comes when you accept that you are not alone on this journey changes everything. It stops being luck. It becomes direction. And at this point in the conversation, I make you an honest invitation. Start looking more carefully at your dreams, not as a guessing game, but as a channel of communication, a sacred territory where the invisible reveals itself when your mind slows down, where what you ignore during the day can finally be heard without interruption. Comment here. That makes sense to me if this story also touched you in some way. Now, I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because if dreams can really save lives like this, then we need to understand what happens when we ignore the signs. There is a price for this, a silent cost that many people only realize when it is too late, because there is something even more mysterious than dreams that warn of danger. It is when a voice, clear, direct, urgent, breaks the silence of the early morning and completely changes the course of a life. And it is not a metaphor, it is real. It happened to a family man who had nothing mystical about him and who did not spend his days looking for signs in everything. He was a practical man, accustomed to the land, to sweat, to the routine of waking up early and going to bed exhausted. But that night logic had no place. What happened there defied any rational explanation. The story begins with persistent rain, the kind that never stops for a second. The weather had been overcast for 3 days, and the soil in the region where they lived was beginning to show signs of saturation. But no one imagined that something more serious was about to happen. The house was simple, built with effort over the years, and despite the leaks, everything seemed solid. The father, mother, and 2 children slept together in one room, as they always did, until around 3 in the morning, the silence in the house was broken, not by thunder or strong wind, but by a sentence, just one, that invaded the father's mind with supernatural clarity. "Take your family now." He opened. His eyes were the start. His heart was racing as if he had been physically startled. He sat up in bed trying to understand. The house was silent. The children were fast asleep, so was his wife. And yet, that phrase echoed. It wasn't a vague thought. It wasn't an impression. It was a voice. He knew it. And as much as his mind wanted to rationalize, something in his chest tightened as if time was running out. He hesitated for a second, looked around, and decided to obey. Without making a fuss, he gently shook his wife and told her that they needed to leave the house. She, still sleepy, resisted, thinking it was just a passing concern, but he insisted. He said it was serious, that he couldn't explain it, but that they needed to go now. She felt the seriousness in his eyes and, without understanding, hurriedly dressed the children. They left with what they could grab: documents, a blanket, a flashlight. They walked to the house of a relative who lived in the higher part of the neighborhood, about 15 minutes away. All of this happened before sunrise, and it was only when daylight came that the hidden truth was revealed. The hill above their house had given way. A huge amount of earth had slid down during the night, sweeping away trees, utility poles, and everything in its path. The family home was completely destroyed, and the most shocking thing, the landslide occurred only 10 minutes after they left. If they had waited a little longer, if the father had ignored the voice, if he had rationalized too much, there would have been no survivors. Now stop and think with me. How many times do we feel something similar but swallow it in the name of logic? How many decisions could be different if we paid more attention to those sensations that seem to come out of nowhere but that carry an inexplicable weight? This story is not about religion, nor about superstition. It is about perception, about an intelligence that acts behind the scenes of existence, far beyond what the eyes can see or what science can measure. The father of that family did not have a vision with images. He did not see fire, nor shadows, nor angels. He only heard. A sentence, just one. But that sentence contained everything: the warning, the right time, and the exact direction. And here is a point that many people ignore: the right time. Because it's not enough to just notice the sign. You have to have the courage to act immediately. Because the most important signs in life don't wait. They don't stay available forever. And that has a direct impact on our journey. This voice, which many call intuition, others call God or even a spiritual guide, does not appear when everything is comfortable. It comes at the crucial moment, when your decision has the power to change absolutely everything. And what is most striking about this story is that the father was not someone who was spiritual in the traditional sense. He himself said later that he had never heard anything like it before, but he recognized that it was real. He did not try to fit into an explanation. He just listened and acted. And it was this mentality that saved his life and that of his family. Many people are mistaken in thinking that in order to experience divine intervention, they need to be in constant prayer or be part of a specific spiritual movement. But sometimes, grace invades without knocking, and it invades where there is sensitivity, even if the person has never consciously sought it, because when something needs to be avoided, the universe moves, and if you are open, you feel it, you hear it, you understand it, even without words. This is where a hidden truth about how miracles work comes in. They are not just about faith. They are also about readiness, about recognizing the moment, about obeying even without knowing why. And this is what scares the most, because it requires total trust in something you cannot see. It is jumping into the dark, with the certainty that there is something waiting for you on the other side. And almost no one is willing to do this. Most people doubt, they hesitate. They post a picture of their faith but then back off at the moment when they need it most. The father who listened to that voice saved his family because he didn't have time to doubt. His intuition came like a bolt of lightning, and he trusted. Trusting like that is rare. But it is possible. It's a decision, it's a practice, it's training. And the more you allow yourself to listen to those silent warnings, the sharper your internal radar becomes. This isn't mysticism, it's survival. It's the difference between drowning and learning to swim with your eyes closed. And the most powerful thing of all is that he didn't boast afterwards. He didn't tell the story like someone who had become a hero. He remained silent. He knelt on the dirt floor of his relative's house, hugging the children, and cried. He cried because he had obeyed. He cried because he had had time. He cried because he understood that it wasn't luck. It was deliverance. It was guidance. It was invisible love that manifests itself when you least expect it. Write it down. I'm on this journey too if this story touched something inside you. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic. Because if these cases show the power of listening, we need to talk about what happens when people choose not to listen. When the voice comes and yet the person ignores it. What is behind this disconnection? What are we missing by not trusting this inner calling? As when the voice comes and yet the person ignores it. What is behind this disconnection? What are we missing out on by not trusting this inner calling? It is at this point that many lives unfold on autopilot, stuck in rational decisions that in practice only serve to silence intuition. We stifle the signals, treating as coincidence what, deep down, was guidance. And when we realize it, it is already too late. The moment has passed, the warning has been ignored, and the damage has already been done. That's why I've prepared some additional material for those who felt that this content made sense. If you want to better understand how to connect with this silent guidance, the one that comes from above, but speaks directly to your inner self, take a look at the material I've left below. Reading from your birth angel. It is practical and straightforward, made especially for those who are on this journey of transformation and seeking more clarity in decisive moments. This material is a bridge between what we talked about here and your real experience. It can save you a lot of time trying to decipher the signs that are already around you on your own. Connect with personalized guidance from the angelic kingdom to navigate powerful transformations that are coming your way. It's here in the description, but I might take it down in the next few days. So if it's useful to you, take advantage of it while it's still available. Now, going back, because there is something even deeper when we talk about Ignore, the inner voice. And that's what I want to show you now with a real case that brings a revelation too strong to be ignored. In dreams, the world goes silent. The horns stop honking. The notifications stop. The obligations, the fears, the voices of the day, all of it pauses. And it is precisely in this sacred interval that something greater finds space to manifest itself. It is when we are most vulnerable that heaven finds a gap. The rational mind sleeps, but the spirit awakens. And the angels, they know this. That is why the most important warnings often come when we have our eyes closed. It is not just a coincidence. It is a spiritual strategy. Sleep is a neutral territory, where logic no longer shouts loudly, where there are fewer filters or mental barriers. The soul is more sensitive, more open. It is in this state of surrender, free from the distractions of reality, that the divine message finds fertile ground. If you've ever had a dream that seemed different from all the others, one that stuck with you like a memory, maybe it wasn't just a dream, maybe it was a message, maybe it was protection. And the more we understand this, the more we begin to appreciate what seemed like nothing more than randomness. There is something profound in this communication, and it is not new. Since ancient times, dreams have been used as divine instruments. The book of Job itself said, "In dreams or visions of the night, when deep sleep falls upon men, as they sleep in their beds, then he opens their ears and terrifies them with warnings." Job 33, 15-16. Look at the power of this. It's not just symbolic. It's direct. It's as if the spiritual world takes advantage of this moment of stillness to bring light to what we don't want or can't see during the day. How many bad decisions have you made because you were too distracted to notice what your heart was trying to tell you? How many times have you ignored that feeling because it seemed like it was all in your head? What if it wasn't? What if that strange feeling in your stomach or that persistent dream were actually a calling? The hidden truth is that angels have their own codes. They do not follow the flow of human logic. They operate in a realm where signs, symbols, and emotions are worth more than words. And so dreams become bridges, portals, direct connections. When something needs to be revealed without interference, it is on this plane that they manifest themselves. But dreams don't always come with a clear and obvious scene. Sometimes it's a symbolic image, a place you've never seen, a face you don't recognize but feel means something, an event that scares you for no rational reason. All of these can be part of a personalized spiritual language, one that speaks to you in a way that only you can understand, you is able to understand. That's why you can't treat dreams as mental garbage or as irrelevant coincidences. There's an opportunity for insight there, a chance for alignment, a warning, sometimes subtle, but that can make all the difference in your journey. Because believe me, there are people who are only alive today because they took a dream seriously. And there are people who lost everything because they thought it was nonsense. And there's more. It's not just about protection from external tragedies. Angels also use dreams to protect us from ourselves, from our stubbornness, from our repetitive cycles, from the decisions we insist on making even though we know they're not healthy. Sometimes a dream is the only way to stop you for a moment and say, hey, pay attention. This isn't what it seems. Go this way, not that way. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject because there is a spiritual detail that almost no one talks about, but that reveals the behind the scenes of this connection between you and the invisible. And when you understand this, everything starts to make sense. Write it down. I'm on this journey too, if this resonated with you. ChatGPT said, have you ever had a dream that seemed more real than life itself? That made you wake up with your heart racing, your eyes still half lost between two worlds, and a strange feeling in your chest, as if you had experienced something that doesn't fit into logic but still made perfect sense. Most people have had at least one experience like that. A dream that didn't seem like a dream. An encounter, a message, an unknown place, but deeply familiar. Sometimes what we experience in our dreams has such a strong impact that it permeates our day. It lingers. A word that we can't forget, a symbol that appears again and again, a feeling that won't go away. And then comes that doubt. Could this be telling me something? And maybe it was. Maybe it was a calling, an intimate revelation, or even a gentle warning, carefully placed there by someone who sees more than you can see now. Many people ignore these signs because they have learned to trust only what is tangible. But if we only focus on what can be explained, we lose access to deeper layers of existence. And it is in these layers that angels act most freely. Dreams that carry this sense of heightened realism often come with a different emotional intensity. It's not just an image, it's an experience. You smell it, you hear it, you feel it as if you were there. And sometimes when you wake up, you feel like you left something important behind, something you should have brought with you into the waking world. That's because in many of these dreams, the spirit has been truly touched, and the body feels it. There are real stories of people who have completely changed their lives after a dream like this. People who ended a toxic relationship. People who cancelled a trip at the last minute. People who changed career paths, all because something inside them was awakened by a dream that no one else had experienced, but that was deeply real to the person who received it. This is no coincidence. It is subtle intervention, and this is where spiritual sensitivity comes in, because dreams don't always provide a clear answer, in bold letters. Sometimes they simply open up an internal space, a window of doubt, a question mark. And it is in this space that true transformation begins. It is when you stop running on autopilot and start asking yourself, why did I dream this just now? What does this want to show me? Understand that it is not about living trapped in the world of dreams, nor trying to interpret everything. Literally, what matters is recognizing that they can be doors, invitations, and that often angels choose this channel to deliver something that you may not yet be ready to hear in another way. In fact, one of the hidden truths that almost no one talks about is that the most significant dreams are not always beautiful. Sometimes they come with fear, with anguish, with tears. Because the soul is undergoing a cleansing, it is being confronted with something that needs to be healed. And yes, this is also protection. When you dream about something disturbing and wake up feeling restless, it's like a layer of energy is being peeled away. And that could be the very thing that's stopping you from evolving, the thing that's stopping you from connecting. Angels aren't there to comfort you all the time. They're there to wake you up. And sometimes waking up hurts. But what happens when the dream comes with peace, with that indescribable presence, that light that you can't see with your eyes but feel throughout your body? These are sacred moments, rare ones, and they usually come when you are in tune, when your spiritual field is clear enough to perceive the gentle touch of the divine presence. Sometimes all the angel wanted was to remind you, you are not alone. And in this type of dream, you wake up with a certainty that you can't explain, a faith that springs forth effortlessly, a hope that silently guides you through the following days. It's not rational, it's spiritual. It's like a song that only you have heard, but that changes the rhythm of your walk. These dreams are anchors. They come to sustain your journey. When everything seems murky, they are reminders that there is a greater order at work, that even in chaos there is purpose, that even in silence there is listening. And if you have ever had a dream like this, and with this strength, this presence, this impact, know that it was not by chance. There is a reason why you remember it to this day. And perhaps there are still messages there that you have not fully deciphered, because dreams speak the language of the soul, and this language is not translated in a hurry. It requires silence, sensitivity, surrender. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because when we understand who is behind these messages, and because they arrive in such specific ways that perception changes completely, and what once seemed merely curious is revealed to be part of a much larger plan. Comment here. That makes sense to me if any of these words touched something inside you, because understanding the difference between a common dream and a prophetic dream can completely change the way you perceive the messages you receive while you sleep. The truth is that not every dream carries a deeper spiritual meaning, but those that do have this dimension tend to leave marks that time does not easily erase. Prophetic dreams, unlike common dreams, are not simple fragments of our imagination or jumbled memories. They settle in the mind and heart, insisting on remaining alive as if they carried an urgent message that needs to be understood. One of the first signs that you can tell if you had a dream with a purpose beyond the obvious is that persistent feeling that doesn't leave you throughout the day. It could be a strange feeling, a gentle restlessness, or even an inexplicable peace, but it weighs on you in a different way. Ordinary dreams tend to dissolve as soon as you wake up, turning into dust in your memory. Prophetic dreams, on the other hand, tend to echo for hours, sometimes days, drawing you to reflect, feel, and act. It's almost as if your own body refuses to let the dream escape, as if your soul is trying to tell you something through symbols and emotions that you haven't yet deciphered. Furthermore, it is very common for these dreams to be accompanied by signs in the real world. Life, with its complex web of coincidences, can present clues to confirm or expand on what the dream has already revealed. It could be an unexpected encounter, a phrase that appears in an unusual place, or even a song that plays exactly at the moment when you are immersed in that doubt. These small signs act as subtle confirmations, helping the rational mind to accept that which seems so mysterious at first glance. They are the bridge between dream and reality, and recognizing these signs can be decisive in helping you understand which direction to take in your decisions. Another important point is the feeling that remains in your heart after the dream. Some dreams leave you with a deep sense of peace, almost like a welcoming embrace from the universe, while others bring a palpable urgency, a kind of inner pressure that you can't ignore. It's this urgency that often motivates people to make significant changes in their lives, changes that may seem radical but are essential to their journey of transformation. It's as if the dream activates a trigger within you, a spark that ignites a new mindset and paves the way for deeper revelations. If you notice, prophetic dreams are not usually superficial messages. They appear at key moments in life, at crossroads, when you need to decide which path to follow or when some hidden truth needs to come to light. They are part of the invisible backstage of your personal history, revelations that often only time, experience, and attentive listening can decipher. From them, a new awareness, a change in perspective, or even the courage needed to face challenges that previously seemed impossible can emerge. A practical tip for recognizing these dreams is to pay attention to repetition. If a theme, image, or feeling comes back over and over, even in different forms, it is a sign that there is a message that has not yet been fully assimilated. It is not uncommon for the same dream to manifest itself on different nights or to appear in fragments that seem disconnected, but when put together they form a larger picture, a hidden truth waiting to be revealed. This repetition is a way that the spiritual world uses to ensure that you do not miss what is essential. Another important detail is how you feel when sharing your dream. Often, when you tell someone you trust, you realize that their interpretation or reaction opens new doors to understanding. The journey of deciphering a prophetic dream is not a solitary one. It can gain strength and clarity when put into dialogue, when confronted with other perspectives, always maintaining sensitivity to what is true for you. It is in this process that decisions begin to be made with greater confidence and transformation begins to truly happen. Also realize that prophetic dreams are not limited to mechanically predicting the future. They have a broader dimension, which involves learning, growth, and preparation. They are invitations to awaken a different mindset, to expand your vision of what is possible, and to act consciously in the face of the changes that life demands. That is why their impact can be so profound. They affect not only what is to come, but who you are in the present, and your role in this great journey that is existence. And of course, like everything that involves this connection with the spiritual realm, interpreting these dreams requires patience and humility. Not everything is always clear right away, and not every detail needs to be deciphered right away. Sometimes, what seemed confusing becomes crystal clear over time, like a piece of a puzzle that only fits together after other pieces appear. Therefore, cultivating an attitude of observation and openness, in addition to taking care of your mental and emotional health, makes all the difference. True transformation happens when we accept that wisdom is not only in understanding, but also in feeling. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because if up until now we have already begun to realize how much power these dreams have to impact decisions and open doors, it is important to understand what happens behind the scenes of this phenomenon, what drives this connection between our world and the spiritual plane, and how we can, in fact, expand this perception to live in a way that is more aligned with this guidance. The journey to recognize, embrace, and act based on these dreams is one of the great revelations that we can access to transform our journey, bringing to light truths that are often hidden in plain sight, but that make all the difference in our personal and spiritual development. Comment: I'm on this journey too, if you feel like this conversation is stirring something inside you. They are all around us, even when we don't realize it. Angels, even though they often seem like figures from ancient stories or distant symbols, are present in our daily lives, working silently behind the scenes of our lives. Their role goes far beyond what we imagine. Their mission is clear and powerful: to save, protect, and guide. Perhaps you have experienced moments when something unexpected happened and saved you from danger, or felt a strong intuition that guided you away from a bad decision. These are the subtle gestures of angels, working discreetly to preserve our path, even when we don't immediately recognize their presence. The curious thing is that many have been saved by these invisible guardians, but few can identify who really helped them. It is like a hidden truth, a layer of reality that remains camouflaged in the folds of routine waiting to be discovered. The rational mind, focused on tangible facts, tends to minimize these experiences, classifying them as coincidences or mere coincidences. But there is something much greater at stake, an impact that transcends the immediate, a protection that defies logical explanations and that invites us to open our hearts to this deep connection with the divine. This protection is not random. It is an expression of the benevolence that moves the universe and supports us even in the darkest moments. When we stop to think about it, we realize that the mission of angels is, in essence, an invitation for us to be more attentive to our own journey. They not only save us from external dangers, but also from our internal fears, doubts, and confusion. Often, the greatest protection they offer is that which helps us maintain clarity when faced with the decisions that define the course of our lives. It is as if their presence were an invisible beacon, illuminating the path so that we can move forward with more confidence, even when everything seems uncertain. This is one of the greatest revelations we can access. We are not alone, and the care we receive goes far beyond what the eyes can see. And this mission to save and protect is directly linked to the role of guiding. More than preventing falls or dangers, angels act as silent mentors, guiding our mentality to higher states, to choices that generate transformation. With each important decision, they offer that subtle touch, that energy that can change the course of a situation. They are the behind-the-scenes of our personal history, working so that we grow, evolve, and discover the hidden truth within ourselves. It is an impact that, when recognized, brings a new awareness about the journey we are living, teaching us to better interpret the signs and to trust the process, even when the road seems challenging. What many people don't realize is that this protective presence is always aligned with our freedom of choice. Angels don't interfere by forcing our paths, but are there to offer support, comfort, and guidance so that we can exercise the power of our decisions wisely. It's a delicate balance that respects our individuality, while at the same time promoting alignment with a greater truth. And it's precisely this interaction that makes the human experience so fascinating and nuanced, a space where the divine and the earthly meet, where the invisible behind the scenes manifests itself through our attitudes, our thoughts, and our faith. Furthermore, recognizing this mission of the angels helps us develop a mindset of gratitude and openness, two fundamental ingredients for personal transformation. When we begin to notice small interventions, protective gestures, and moments of guidance, even if subtle, our outlook on life changes. We begin to see beyond the surface, seeking meaning in situations, even the most difficult ones. This perception is a powerful force, capable of transforming not only the way we react to challenges, but also the way we relate to the world around us. The impact of this is profound, because it expands our capacity to embrace the unexpected and learn even from experiences that seem negative. And there's more. This mission of the angels is closely linked to our responsibility as well, to be receptive, to cultivate a genuine connection with this protective and guiding force. This requires an active stance, a willingness to listen, to open oneself to the revelations that appear in silence, in dreams, and in moments of meditation or prayer. It's a journey that involves self-knowledge and the courage to face one's own shadows, because only then can we allow the light of this presence to truly reach us. This relationship of trust and surrender is one of the most important aspects of our evolution, a secret that, when discovered, changes the course of our choices and brings us closer to a life with more meaning. Because understanding this interaction between our free will and angelic protection reveals one of the greatest mysteries of existence. It is in this delicate dance between our decisions and invisible care that true transformation takes place. This dynamic not only reinforces the idea that nothing happens by chance, but also highlights the importance of paying attention to signs, intuitions, and that inner voice that often guides us more clearly than any external advice. It is these revelations that invite us to live more consciously, to value each step of our journey, and to recognize the impact of the forces that work in our favor, even when everything seems to be beyond our control. Comment below. This makes sense to me if this conversation touched something inside you. If you've come this far, it's because there's something much bigger moving in your life. Perhaps it's no coincidence that this video has found you at this very moment. With these words, this energy, this message that touches something deep in your heart, there's a hidden truth pulsing through your journey, an invitation for you to connect with that which goes beyond the routine, the visible and the obvious. If there's a call to change, to transform, to look within and see the light even in the shadows, it's here waiting to be heard. It's as if the universe, the angels, the forces that care for us are sending you small, discreet but powerful signs so that you don't lose your way, so that you recognize the strength that lives within you and can move forward with courage and hope. This journey is not just about understanding dreams or perceiving angels. It is about awakening a new mindset, a different way of seeing life, of making decisions, and of feeling that each step has an impact, a consequence that reverberates far beyond what we imagine. It is the opportunity to reveal the backstage of your own existence, to access deep layers of your consciousness where the true power of transformation resides. The revelations that arise, whether in dreams, signs, or sensations, are tools for you to build a path with more meaning, a life aligned with your truest values. It is in this harmony that renewed hope is born, the kind that sustains even in moments of doubt and uncertainty. And if there is one thing that time and experience teach us, it is that this connection with the divine, with the angels, with the hidden truth, is also an invitation to act, to not let opportunities slip by, to not ignore that inner voice that insists on speaking louder. When we recognize this, we are invited to take the lead in our story, knowing that we have a force at our side that wants to save, protect, and guide us. This certainty does not eliminate challenges, but it completely changes the way we see them. From obstacles, they become stepping stones, learning experiences, and, above all, important steps towards personal growth and evolution. It is a profound transformation that affects everything, the way we feel, think, and relate to the world. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because understanding the weight of these messages, the importance of being attentive to the signs, is opening the door to a level of self-knowledge that few access. It is there in the intimacy of your mind and heart that the decisions that shape not only your destiny, but also the influence you exert on the environment around you are made. This awareness creates a real impact, because with each choice, we make each moment we listen to our intuition or recognize the protective presence, we are aligning our energy with a greater force. And this, in a silent but powerful way, transforms the quality of our journey, making it richer, deeper, and much more truthful. This is one of the great revelations that few people talk about openly. True change begins within, in the space where our doubts, fears, and hopes meet and confront each other. And when this transformation happens, the effect reverberates throughout everything, in relationships, dreams, achievements, and even in the way we face difficulties. The message I received and that I share here is precisely this. Do not underestimate the signs. Do not ignore that feeling that remains, that memory that insists on remaining alive in your memory. They are clues, guides that point to a greater reality and to a journey that is worth living with all your heart. So if you have ever felt something different, a dream that left its mark, a warning that changed the course of your life, or even that inexplicable peace that came at the most unexpected moment, know that this is part of this greater movement. It is the invitation to look within, to listen carefully, to realize that there is an invisible hand reaching out to you, ready to save, protect, and guide, even when everything seems confusing. It is in this connection that lies the hope and strength to move forward, to build a life aligned with the truth that is hidden within you. Right there. I'm on this journey too. If you feel that this path of discoveries, signs, and transformations is present in your life, if you've made it this far, I want to thank you for being truly open to this conversation, for being willing to dive deep into this subject that isn't always easy to understand, but that can transform the way you see life and yourself. If this content made sense to you, or if it awakened something new inside you, consider subscribing to the channel. That way we can continue this exchange, this path of discoveries and revelations that only grows when we walk together. And if you want to leave a comment, write something like "I'm with you until the end." It will be good to know that you're there, following along on this journey, creating this connection that makes everything even more special. And if this video touched you in some way, that like is a simple way of showing that this exchange was genuine, that this message found someone who needed to hear it, There's a video here on the side that complements this subject in a very interesting way. Click and stay with me there. It will be fun to continue exploring this together.